introduce to you this evening Howard Hayes. I met Howard at the Haleiwa Farmers Market many moons ago, and his booth, his stall was always 2 over from where I used to be. And we used to always rap and talk Star was setting up a Bergie knot, and we would always race it. Sometimes I'd win, and sometimes he would. But the one thing that I always was amazed about Howard was his knowledge. But number one, Howard was not a beekeeper his entire life. He is actually an electrician by trade. Is that correct, Howard? And on top of that, he also did stuff like build industrial control systems for aerospace, wastewater power generation, metal manufacturing, and automotive testing. I was always impressed because we'd always talk about like really technical engineering stuff. He's actually a geek and a nerd. And that's a rare combination with beekeeping. It's like, how did that happen, right? But Howard's been here since 2002, and he's been beekeeping since 2004, right? And he has over 18 acres, right?
8 years.
8 years, forgive me, around Oahu, now mainly in Waimanalo and Ewa. One of 2 commercial pollinators on Oahu. Wow.
Yes, read it.
You've beed for, yeah, he's been helping the largest farms on Oahu. I was most impressed by the honey that he would produce because it was always local. And we would always talk about how his hives were doing, and my concern was always about the quality of his honey. Because obviously he can't control where the bees go, right? And in Ewa, you guys all know that Alum farms, they grow organic food as well as genetically modified food. And the bees don't know which is which, they just do their thing, right? And they come back to the same hive and the honey gets produced. So we were always wondering, and he was actually one of the few people I knew that cared enough to actually go and test his honey, to actually research and to be on the cutting edge of actually what was going on. So when his hives start to crash and burn, and his livelihood started to crumble before his very eyes, needless to say, he was very, very concerned about the new types of pesticides that were being applied to the field. Because if that was happening to his bees, what is it going to do to us? And that was always the no-brainer, right? That was like the warning. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Howard to come up and please to share all the nitty-gritty details, to be all down and dirty about bees. Would you please welcome Howard?
Down and dirty. I'm looking kind of dirty, aren't I? I didn't realize that this is going to be televised, and I have been beekeeping today, so this is why I'm sitting in the back, because this shirt is quite bright. But what I wanted to talk about today was pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, and first-hand experience. Because we can see people from the mainland talk about how things are affecting their bees. But the mainland's a different world than Hawaii. Hawaii is a lot different. As we got invasive species in here, mainland beekeepers would tell us, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. And my thought was, well, no, you need to come to Hawaii and see what Hawaii is all about, because our climate is different, our seasons are different. What works in Waimanalo doesn't work in Waianae. Waimanalo is wet, Waianae is dry. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about how pesticides affect the bees. I don't think a lot of people realize this. I've been fortunate in the 10 years that I've been beekeeping. I've had 3 years with no pests. I've had 3 years with varroa mites, and I've had 3 years with this horrible small hive beetle. the pesticide issue, I think, has always been here because farmers have always used pesticides. But before the arrival of varroa mite, I don't think we noticed that. We had huge hives, and if you lost 5,000 bees, two things would happen. One, it's 5 days' work for the queen to make up for that. It's no big loss. The other one is there wasn't that much concern about it. I don't believe that the beekeepers here really were doing any kind of post-mortem on their hives. Why did the hive die? My friends would go, oh, hive problem. That's it. We'll just start over again. An interesting story is that a long time ago, about 2005, there was a swarm of bees at the Longs here. And I was going to go get them, but I heard some beekeeper named Gigi got them. And it's when I heard somebody call you Gigi, then I go, oh. So I still have some brain cells that remember things. Anyway, the pesticide issue, I think, has been here. It's affected the bees. But Hawaii, before the varroa mite and the small hive beetle, we had tons of feral colonies. And the farmers relied probably more than 50% on the feral colonies to pollinate their crops. With the, as varroa came, our hives weren't as strong as they used to be. In fact, we lost about 90% of our wild colonies in the 2008 time frame. So now all of a sudden, bees are more important to the farmers because they're just not having the pollinators out there. When I did a talk show with Scott from UH, Scott said that the loss of bees caused some farmers, especially I think out here in Waianae, to switch from winter melon to a less profitable melon, mainly because the bees just weren't around. So varroa has, changed things economically. The pesticides are still taking their toll. Varroa takes its toll. So now we have two things that are reducing the strength of the hives. And they're more noticeable. The farmers are complaining about, we're not getting good fruit set. Well, we're not getting good fruit set because we have varroa that's attacking our hives, and you keep killing my bees with pesticides. As they spray, I do see pesticide loss. And sometimes in the paper you'll see pictures and you'll see a hive with thousands and thousands of dead bees in the bottom. And I have to question that. I have never lost an entire hive to pesticide. What I have had is the hive weaken. In the days before varroa was a real problem, and the days before the small hive beetle, the hive weakened, give it a couple weeks and it's back up to full strength again. Not a problem. We don't have that luxury anymore. We have the small hive beetle. When the small hive beetle infiltrates the hive, tries to lay eggs, and the only real defense about it is a strong hive. Melissa showed you the beetle trap. But when you think of a hive, I've had hives that have had over 1,600 beetles in it. These traps are maybe taking out 30 to 40, for a while. So it makes us feel good. We're killing some beetles. We're not killing a lot of beetles, but when pesticides are being used, the hives are weak. When they're weak, they're susceptible to the beetle. And this is the problem that I'm facing now, is that my hives, and I beekeep for the farms. Somebody has to. Somebody has to, to make sure that the farms can produce watermelons and cantaloupes. One thing that was missing off there, what's our biggest bee crop here in Hawaii, is macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are just like almonds. No bees, no macadamia nuts. Here in Oahu, it's melons, watermelons, cantaloupe, honeydew melons. Somebody has to provide bees for the farmer, and I'm one. I beekeep for the two largest farms, on Oahu. Both of them spray pesticides. It's been an education. I work with them and tell them that, I would like for you not to use pesticides, but that's just not going to happen. They're in the business to make a product, And until people stop buying things, they're going to continue to do that. So we try to educate the farmer. There's the correct pesticides to use. Can you use something that's bee-friendly? Here's the thing to remember. Organic does not mean pesticide-free. It just means that they're using an organic pesticide. And some of the organic pesticides are the most toxic things for bees. People don't think about that. There's the correct time to spray. There's a correct place to spray. My latest battle with the farms is don't spray Roundup around my hives. Let the weeds grow. I don't know why they want to spray to keep the weeds down around an area that they're not planting, unless it's to keep the weeds from ending up in the crops. But you spray Roundup around the hives, what does it do? It weakens the hive. So now I have a hive that's reduced in strength. Guess who's waiting to take my hive out? Small hive beetles. And I go out, I look, and I have a ooey gooey mess. Small hive beetle wrecks my honey. Whatever honey I might have had is wasted. I can't use it. I'm not even sure the bees will consume it back out. So this is the insidious nature of pesticides. It doesn't have to kill the bees. It doesn't have to kill the hive. It just has to weaken it. So your neighbors, when they're spraying up Roundup, bees are passing through, getting a little bit of Roundup. They're not going to make it back to that wild hive that they came from. I live in Waimanila, and I'm lucky enough to be able to have hives on the property. And I get a call from one of my roommates about our landlord is out there with Roundup spraying around the hives. And, well, is that okay? Hell no, it's not okay. I'll cut the grass down, California grass. I love California grass. If Monsanto could engineer something that would destroy California grass, I would like them probably a lot more. But in the meantime, I hand cut around my hives just so that I don't have to use Roundup. I watch to make sure people don't use Roundup around my hives. And the reason is because it weakens my hives. And once my hives are weak, the beetle comes in. And to give you an idea of how fast this beetle can work, Varroa will kill a hive in 1 year to 2 years. That's how long it takes for Varroa to just sap the numbers of these, the hive, until it can't support itself anymore. The small hive beetle, if it lays eggs, can kill a hive in 4 days. Once the eggs hatch and the larva starts eating up it goes right for the protein pipes. Eats up the pollen, eats up my bees, the larva. As it's going through the hive, it's defecating a wild beast that wrecks the honey. And it also keeps the bees from going in that area so they can go lay more. 4 days I've watched that hive grow. So I had a presentation that I was doing. Bees have their own schedule, and I live by a bee schedule. It's 6 o'clock this morning. I'm on my way to fetch bees from somebody's house in Monowilly. Guess where I'm going after here? I have to go get them from Monowilly, so I don't have a nice presentation today. Anyway, that was the gist of my presentation. Pesticides. Doesn't have to kill the hive, it just weakens it. There's other things that will kill the hive. Also, I brought bees too. I brought a little observation hive. If you've never had a chance to see bees up close, you're more than welcome to. We have some handouts on the back. I don't know how much time we have. I'll answer any questions about bees, anything that I don't know. I'll make up, and I'm usually really good about making stuff up. I can say it with a straight face unless you look at me directly, in which case then I'll start smiling and you know I'm lying. Yeah.
Aloha, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Jessica. My question is, what is the best organic pesticide?
No pesticide.
None. There's none that's good for bees.
I honestly don't believe there is a pesticide that's going to be good for for anything. Unfortunately, I'll borrow some of Gigi's words about, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a farmer. I battle with farmers all the time. What are you using? Tell me what you're using so I can at least look and see what effects it has. You know what I'm saying? Can't tell you, state secret. Can't tell you what we're planting. I would say there probably are no pesticides. If you had to use a pesticide, you would want to do a little research and find one that wasn't as toxic. You'd also want to know when to apply it. So, and this is an important thing, is because you don't want to apply it when the bees are foraging. If you're growing melons are an early morning plant. You don't want to spray in the morning when they're foraging. You want to wait late afternoon. Now the rules change. Bees didn't used to go to melons late in the afternoon. Now they are. So I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't.
None is the best answer.
No pesticides are probably the best. There's a lot of things that they're looking for as part of what they call integrated pest management, like reflective mulches and things like this that are a non-pesticide control of pests. There's also, from what I understand, you can plant attractive plants to pests on the outskirts of your crop and let the pests eat the things that you don't want and leave your other things. But I still look at it.
And then my last question is, if I wanted to plant a flower on my balcony, what's the bees' favorite flowers?
They love citrus, but that's a kind of hard thing to grow on them. But they also like things like basil. Basil's a really good plant for them. It's a good pollen plant. You'll see not only bees, you'll see carpenter bees, you'll see leafcutter bees. So when we talk about pollinators in Hawaii, it's not just the honeybee. When we lost all our honeybees, remember all the carpenter bees, all of a sudden the black bumblebees, there's thousands of them, you could just eat your house up. And that's because there was no honeybees around. Nature doesn't like that vacuum. So no honeybees, other pollinators come. But anyway, I need to stop because I work with things that don't talk. And so when I get around humans, I'm like a cat, you can't shut me up. So.
Thank you so much.